All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for the relaunch of the Kumo Cloud. We are now relaunching our version 1 interface to version 2.2 interface, and we'll go through all the features, functions, and benefits of the new interface through this presentation. And just for starters here, guys, I want to reaffirm the Kumo Cloud is a proprietary Wi-Fi service that we provide at Mitsubishi for you as the contractor offer your consumers. And we highly recommend that you consider offering this at every proposal opportunity. If not, separate line item, better yet, integrating it into the price of the job as a free upgrade. We have several contractors out in the field that are having some success with this, and especially with the reintegration of version 2.2 at this point, we can get some more momentum going into 2017 spring. The agenda this morning, guys, we're going to review what Kumo Cloud is very briefly, and then we're going to go deep into the new interface, version 2.2, as well as the upgraded app. We'll talk about briefly talk about the manuals that have been upgraded on MyLink Drive. We are going to skip the live demonstration this morning, guys, but we will go over frequently asked questions. And just for good measure, we figured we'd throw a couple slides in there on the new floor console unit as a brief review, since we have all you fine folks on the call here. So, Kumo Cloud. Kumo Cloud, once again, is a proprietary Wi-Fi interface service that's app-based as well as internet-based. Mitsubishi launched this last year, about January, February timeframe, 2016, and we are since now relaunching version 2.2 with a couple upgrades on the interface itself from the user's perspective. The interface that you see here on the left-hand side of the screen is version 2.2, so it's noticeably a little different than version 1.0. The wiring harness, the interface itself, some of the buttons, and more importantly, you do not need, or it is not necessary to have a WPS Wi-Fi protected service internet provider and cable modem at the location of your zones at this stage. The Kumo app allows you from anywhere in the world to access your equipment on site or away from the house, and we have added on version 2.2 the ability to communicate while in the conditioned area, or the dwelling, if you will, via Bluetooth, as opposed to only being able to communicate via Wi-Fi. And that's pretty significant from an installation and setup as well for you as the contractor. For your installers out there, if they've ever ran into an issue or two linking things up, taking a little bit more time than what they had anticipated, we believe version 2.2 is going to clear up any of those issues that you might have seen out in the field upon the initial installation and launch of the app. So again, there is a Kumo Cloud server that we have integrated into the internet, and with version 1.0, scheduling events, either one-time or reoccurring events, would go through the Kumo Cloud server. The issue with that, if you want to call it an issue, was that if you were to lose connectivity within the house, in other words, if your internet subscription went down for some reason, the one-time or reoccurring events weren't downloaded into the interface, so you would have to wait for the internet to reaffirm with the wireless internet service or your internet provider to get access to the equipment. That is no longer the case with version 2.2, and then the local wireless network is pretty much no change. In terms of the features of the Kumo Cloud, the homeowner has the ability, if they choose, to hook up every individual zone within their dwelling to the Kumo Cloud. They do need a Wi-Fi interface for each indoor unit, and it's not limited to any one of our indoor unit opportunities. They could be ducted, they could be ductless. We will basically take every piece of equipment that we manufacture, and you have the ability to integrate the Kumo Cloud to that indoor unit. That includes M&P products as well as City Multi for anybody that gets into the commercial aspect of things. The events, once again, can be one-time or reoccurring events, and as designated by the middle caption on your smart device. And then within the settings feature, the homeowner has the ability to plug in push notifications in the event you want reoccurring affirmation of preventive maintenance in terms of cleaning filters, or if there's an issue with the system and let's say an error code pops up, you will get a push notification if you set it up accordingly within that individual zone. Put this slide up here for everybody's reference. CN105 is the connector that the interface is going to connect to at the indoor unit. And the reason I'm being that specific, guys, not that you have to memorize this, but we have a lot of controls and accessories for you guys out in the field to offer your customers. We have the T-Stat interface at this stage of the game, which allows you to hook up any aftermarket thermostat to your equipment or to the Mitsubishi equipment. We've had the MHK1 kit, which is basically a Focus Pro 6000 with built-in Mitsubishi algorithms. The interface for that, the T-Stat interface that I just mentioned, they all plug into CN105. And there's only one CN105 connector on the board, which means the homeowner has the option of one or the other, but you can't do both. You can't do an MHK1 and the Kumo Cloud interface. So just wanted to reaffirm that and keep that in mind going forward. All right, and there's your interface plugging in right into CN105. It's a red connector on the control board. You can't miss it. That's where all the magic happens. So the new interface, there is a slightly different look. It's a little smaller. Comes with Velcro to attach to the wall as opposed to having to screw it to the wall. Slightly different requirements, way better compatibility. There is significant interface improvements with version 2.2, and all the manuals on MyLink Drive has since been updated. There is a Kumo Cloud URL, www.kumocloud.com, for the Kumo app. You do need an Android or Apple device to download the app, okay, Android or Apple, and you do need an internet connection within the house. It could be a Comcast, it could be a Verizon cable subscription, internet subscription, but you do need to have Wi-Fi in the house. And once again, it is compatible with just about every piece of indoor equipment we have at this stage of the game. These compatibility charts you see on the screen here, these are a real handy-dandy tool. If any of you haven't seen these before, these are on MyLink Drive. If you go into the controls section on MyLink Drive and let's say go into residential and click on the MHK1 or any of our residential control opportunities, you will see within those tabs you will have compatibility charts accessible to you. So you click on the compatibility chart and it will basically spell out, hey, for M-Series, P-Series, or our City Multi equipment, what type of controls and accessories can you hook up? And of course, the version 2.2 Kumo Cloud interface is in there as well. In terms of the interface itself, taking the app aside, we do have slightly reduced size on the interface with increased security. Very much so improved performance, and you know, I've learned that firsthand. I've been out in the field with a lot of you guys and some of the contractors that we've seen out there that were struggling with version 1.0 briefly for whatever reason. Version 2.2 with the Bluetooth connectivity has pretty much cleared that up at this stage of the game. We do have increased router capability, and as I mentioned before, you do not need to be hooked up to the internet in the event you have scheduled events as a homeowner. Those scheduled events, either one-time or reoccurring, are downloaded onto the new interface. So in the event the internet goes down for whatever reason, those scheduled events will still take place within the dwelling or within the conditioned zone. So there's a side-by-side picture of the interfaces. Version 1.0 is on the left, version 2.2 is on the right. It is slightly smaller, version 2.2 that is, and we can attach via Velcro right now. If any of you have Easy Passes out there, the Easy Pass comes with a Velcro option. That's basically the same Velcro you get for the interface. So rather than having to drill holes or screw and find studs or any of that jazz, you can Velcro it above the unit, to the side of the unit, whatever you prefer. The wiring harness, you know, this isn't a tremendous difference, but the wiring harness for version 1.0, and again, I have first-hand experience on this, you kind of had to sneak it in the back of the unit, and it was round, somewhat thick, so you had to kind of force it in. Whereas the new wiring harness is a little thinner, and they ran the insulation jacket all the way up to the Molex plug, which I personally like it that way. It's much easier to route it inside the unit and then come out, stick it in, and then pop it on top of the unit if you're in the event you're a wall mount unit. You'll notice that there's no WPS button on interface 2 because WPS is not, I repeat, not a requirement for version 2.2. There is a reset button on there to do a firmware reset and restore all factory settings, but other than that, the connect button there, not WPS required. There is improved security, and guys, I'm just going to glance over this. I am not an engineer, and it sounds like quantum mechanics when you start talking about Atmel crypto chips on my end. Hopefully I got a chuckle at a few of you there. But the bottom line is we went a step further than just the WPS Wi-Fi protected service that your internet providers provide to you guys. We did it on our end, so we want to prevent any unauthorized reprogramming of the wireless interface, and rest assured we've taken that into account in version 2.2. We do have improved performance throughout the house, both remotely and locally. But there is no significant performance change locally within the wireless network. However, you do have the ability to link up via Bluetooth, once again, if the Wi-Fi in the house goes down for whatever reason. Your smart device does have to be in the conditioned space or thereabouts. So long as you have the range within your Bluetooth connectivity, you can link up to any individual zone. I will say the old interface, when remote access was needed outside of the dwelling, if you had a command that you wanted to incorporate into a zone, it would typically take minutes, typically somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes, whereas the new interface, version 2.2, about 30 to 60 seconds for the equipment to react to the new interface. Once again, you do not need, I'm going to repeat this again, you do not need a WPS connection on your cable modem. There is no restriction on version 2.0, and on the initial setup for the installing contractors out there, typically your guys are going to install via Bluetooth on their smart device, right? Their smart device, not a homeowner smart device. The homeowner does not need to be present on version 2.2, and that's a huge, huge concept, which we'll get into in a second when we talk about transfer ownership. It is not internet dependent. I mentioned this once already. We do have a Kumo Cloud server, and the old version, the events that were scheduled within any individual zone needed to go through the Kumo Cloud server, which means if the internet were to go down for whatever reason in that house, the internet would have to come back to reaffirm any programmed or pre-programmed event. The new interface does not have to go through the Kumo Cloud server. It is not internet dependent. Once you set your events on the individual interface, it's programmed into that interface as opposed to the Kumo Cloud server, which is a significant upgrade, guys. If the internet goes down, it's irrelevant to that individual interface and individual zone in your house. It will still run as scheduled. All right, moving on into the app. We've got some new initial settings that we'll run through. We also have an equipment function setting. And what I mean by that is there are certain products of ours, let's say ducted products. You got an MVZ air handler, an SEZ air handler, to where you have, as the installing contractor, the ability to go in there and adjust, let's say, your static setting. You have the ability to do that with the Kumo Cloud version 2.2 interface. You go right on the app, you set, in the event it's an SEZ, you set your external static for 0.2, and you're good to go. You're off and running. There's no dip switch settings, none of that. You can do it right on the app. It's a pretty neat function. But more importantly, the transfer ownership from the contractor's perspective is off the charts, guys. This is the ability for your installing tech to not have a homeowner present, right? And especially if they're doing this for the first time, you're not going to necessarily want a homeowner over your back setting this thing up, because there's a few things you're going to have to get used to the first or 1 or 2 times. That being said, you do not need the homeowner present. The install tech can download the app for free, and they can program everything on this individual zone or however many zones you have in the house. And at that point, once he's satisfied that the equipment's set up appropriately for what the homeowner's needs are, he then has the ability to transfer ownership of those zones via email to the homeowner and the homeowner's smart device. It's a really, really cool function, guys. Hopefully you enjoy it. The installer initial settings, some LED lights, guys. The version 1.0, one thing that I wanted to see improved with the new 2.2 interface is that the LED lights were on the same side as the reset button and the connect button. As simple as that sounds, it was a pain in the butt having the interface version 1.0 just hanging with the buttons present, but you couldn't see the LED lights. So it's a neat little upgrade. Discovering zones, again, takes seconds instead of minutes. You do not need WPS. And then, of course, we have the transfer ownership, which I just mentioned. I'm not going to go through the LED lights. Know that MyLink Drive has a Kumo Cloud installer and operator's manual downloaded for your reference. The Kumo Cloud download for version 2.0 also has the instructions for version 1.0 in the event you have an interface 1.0 out in the field. So on the initial settings, your installer setup is going to be settings, setup, and then you'll go into your connecting sites. And typically, again, this is going to be done via Bluetooth. You'll identify where the project is in terms of the house. You'll identify the Wi-Fi network within the house. And then in the event you have interfaces hooked up, it will tell you via their IP address whether the connection is strong or weak to determine what type of signal strength you're going to have via Wi-Fi. Once you have identified the IP address for an individual interface, you can name that zone. Let's say it's the living room in this particular case. You'll be able to identify within that zone what type of indoor unit you have. Is it a ductless wall mount, floor console? Is it an MBZ air handler, SCZ, what have you? In the event it is an indoor unit that has some advanced function features like external static that I had mentioned on an SCZ, you'll be able to say, is this installed vertically, horizontally, downflow on an MBZ, and then set your available or your appropriate external static settings based on the ductwork installed. Once all is said and done, you'll go into the advanced features as well, which will identify auto changeover or not. And, you know, within, let's say if you're familiar with the MHK1, there's about, I would say, 25 to 30 advanced features that you can set up on our equipment. You'll be able to run through every single one of those when prompted to do so. You'll hit save, and that'll save all of your advanced and standard settings on the equipment. And at that point, you can do a test run on the equipment. You can add additional zones, or if your single zone or multi-zone interfaces are connected at this point, you can at that point transfer ownership of the site, if you will. All right, all the advanced functions are listed on the screen here. We have a couple YouTube videos that have been pre-populated on our YouTube site, Mitsubishi HVAC YouTube channel, if you will. It goes over the advanced settings for version 2.2. It also goes over the transfer ownership of version 2.2. So again, if you guys are going out to hook one of these up for the first time, let's say you're familiar with 1.0, you're not familiar with 2.2 just yet. You guys can have a Monday morning quarterback session and watch a 5-minute tutorial on how you're going to walk through the steps on setting 2.2 up. And guys, I think we're doing a pretty good job on this. Looking for your feedback. If there's anything that you'd like to see in terms of videos like that on our YouTube channel, please, please, please reach out to me or my colleagues, Ryan Flynn, my boss, Tom McSorley. Let us know. We'll do what we can to get it on there. So, transfer ownership, assuming everything's connected and ready to rock, your install tech is going to transfer ownership to the homeowner. He's going to label your company info and your phone number. So in the event there's a push notification or any type of preventive maintenance that you guys want to see incorporated as a push notification, you can incorporate that in your company information, and phone number will pop up. And as simple as plugging in the homeowner's email address and hitting send, okay, the entire setup at that point will be prompted via email to the homeowner to then connect their app, their dedicated Kumo app, to everything that is now populated on her app, hers or his app. It's a beautiful function. You'll see a check mark box on the right-hand side here that says Hide Installer Settings for the new homeowner. Highly recommend you as the installing contractor check that box, especially if you have some advanced function features that are set in version 2.2. You don't want them with the ability to go in there and changing things around on you that could be adversely affecting the system. So you have a lot of flexibility here. It's a great, great feature. It should provide you the flexibility of finishing an install without a homeowner present. The manuals for version 2.2, the install guides and the operator's manuals are downloaded on the MyLink drive. There's also manuals that come with version 2.2. And the reason we point that out is version 1.0 did not have the installation guide in it. You had to download that off the MyLink drive or pull it up via the internet. Here's a snapshot of the operations manual version 2.0. Again, it also has the information for version 1.0, but it highlights all the upgrades via Bluetooth, your test run feature, transfer ownership, the Wi-Fi interface itself, routine maintenance that's recommended, as well as frequently asked questions. Furthermore, how to get started, how to control your zones, programming, organizing your zones, featured settings for a homeowner. It is all integrated into the new operator's manual. We are going to forgo a live demonstration on the equipment. What I will point out to the group here is David Lamb, who's sitting next to me, I can confirm this. He has committed, if you have, as the contractor, if you have a zone within your office, or let's say you have a personal system, Mitsubishi system in your house, if you are interested in hooking up a version 2.2, David Lamb and Pierce Phelps has committed to, at no charge, a free 2.2 interface for that zone. It's one per contractor, but he is supporting that. David, if you just want to come over the top.
Yeah, no, we want to see you guys use this. Looking at the people who seem to have engaged with this both in our market and also talking with Mitsubishi nationally, we're seeing a far higher close rate with people who include Kumo Cloud in their proposals, and people who then can demonstrate its capability when they're in the home. So we want you guys to be able to show the capabilities when you're trying to sell the system to people when you're in their house, and buy more.
Yeah, it's as simple as this for me, guys, and hopefully you agree. If you as the installing contractor have confidence in a product, piece of equipment, or an accessory or control in this case, if you have confidence in it, you're going to be able to relay that confidently to a homeowner. And that includes sales as well as install and service. So feel free to take advantage of this, guys. If you have any questions whatsoever on version 2.2 upon initial setup, please feel free to reach out to me or the DSG team here at Pierce Phelps. We'll get you up and running. But again, we'd love to see you guys have access to this as the installing contractor so that you can then provide that confident feedback then to a homeowner. FAQs, just for instance, the top question here, can I use both the remote control and the app? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. But just typical questions that we see on a regular basis here, these are all in the installer guides as well as the operator's guides for the homeowners that should prevent any type of phone calls or follow-up phone calls from a homeowner in the event you're set up, you're good to go, week 2 or whatever down the path, down the line. That is it for Kumo Cloud version 2.2 interface. I am going to run through just a few slides here briefly on the floor console, but David Lamb wants to jump in here real quick.
So if anyone has any questions on Kumo Cloud before we just a quick review of the floor-mounted units, then please post them in the question button. I have a couple of questions for James that we've not rehearsed. He's looking very panicked.
Ruh-roh.
Well, what do you see as best practice for dealers in terms of presenting Kumo Cloud to homeowners?
Yeah, because it's a great question, David. Because it's a relatively new product. Yeah, it's only been out for a year. We got some traction starting in spring of 2016, and with the relaunch of version 2.2, the contractors that are having the most success with this product are integrating it into the price of a job and offering it as a free upgrade. You know, it's a value-added install or add-on to a Mitsubishi proposal. And that could be a single zone and or multi-zone. If you got multi-zones, you want to consider the fact that you'll have multiple interfaces. But for a single zone system, for sure, you know, for the bargain price of, let's say, $130, you have the interface. It's negligible. You're going to build that into the cost of the job anyway. And you can provide a homeowner with a proposal that says that this Mitsubishi system is now Wi-Fi integrated. And our target customer segments, you're talking comfort seekers and tech seekers specifically, they're looking for whole home automation. They love the new technology, and they certainly want to have access to their equipment, their HVAC equipment, via Wi-Fi throughout the world. So in my opinion, that's the way I would go. I would build it into the job, at least temporarily, until you get the word out there, you know, and beyond. That's what I would do.
Are dealers running any promotional mailers and things like that around this?
Yes, direct mailers, statement stuffers are the two that I've seen most recently. That's part of their marketing message going into spring, and basically they're offering it as a free upgrade or at a minimal upgrade cost. They were integrating Wi-Fi. Some guys are promoting their maintenance agreements, their maintenance contracts for spring to get in the doors. That's a great marketing message for those spring campaigns.
And we have a question from Bill Lutz. Does it work with Google HomeKit, Google Home, Amazon Alexa, etc.?
It does not, Mr. Lutz. You do have to download our app, and it works through our Kumo Cloud server. So you do need Wi-Fi into the house, but any third-party accessory, whole home automation accessory at this stage of the game is not an applicable interface or app option for the Kumo Cloud.
And Bill, yes, we're recording this, so we'll send out the link later this afternoon. I think we can go back now. Let's just make sure we've no more new questions. I don't think so. Okay, so we'll quick little review of the floor-mounted unit, something that we are really underselling. We're seeing it sold very hard in some of the other areas where it overcomes issues of putting units on the wall.
Thanks, David. Yep. In July of 2016, guys, we launched a ton of new equipment, as you well know, and the most important one for me was the rework and redesign of our floor console unit. You're staring at a upgraded version of our floor console. I do have a side-by-side version. You'll see old versus new. But we added a 15,000, so the product lineup in a single zone now, not only allocated to multi-zone, but single zone as well. We have a 9, a 12, a 15, and an 18 with the best efficiencies in the business at this stage of the game for a floor console. It is a single zone dedicated system if need be, and it is also hyperheat for a single zone. And for instance, just like any other hyperheat piece of equipment, it's 100% heating at 5, and the 18,000 BTU model is pushing 21,000 BTUs at 5 degrees. Our heating performance and our hyperheat products have driven our sales growth for the last 2.5 years. The sales are off the charts, and that's why we went this route. So stay tuned for future products, but this one in particular is a hyperheat model. In terms of compatibility, guys, the C generation multi-zone systems on the branch box end, C generation is perfectly acceptable. That's all you need to be aware of. The only thing you need to be cognizant of is, and I believe Pierce Phelps has rotated inventory at this point, to integrate a new floor console on a port type multi-zone system, you need to have a version NA-2. It needs to be a -2 port type model to integrate the new floor console unit. So here's your side-by-side comparison, old versus new. The older version had 2 blower assemblies. You can see one up top and one down below. You have dual deflection, which was great. The problem with two blower assemblies across one evap coil is you effectively cut the efficiencies in half. And when the feds came up with their new federal efficiency requirements in 2014, we could then now not have a one-to-one rated system. At that point, the likes of Fujitsu, our competitor, a major competitor with this product, really kind of cornered the marketplace, if you will. And also with two blower assemblies drove the cost up. Now, on the redesign, it's a slicker looking unit. We still have dual deflection, which is better than our competition. Up top, we have a single blower assembly with a horizontal and a vertical louver. There's a lot of advantages of that we'll talk about in a second, but that's how our efficiencies effectively doubled. We eliminated a blower assembly in the unit. Looking at a side profile of the equipment, you have the ability to recess this piece of equipment into the wall. So in the event you're in a retrofit application, typically you're not going to address that situation. I mean, we're not necessarily drywallers in this industry, and we're not going to be messing with wood studs or walls. But the depth on these units are about 8.5 inches. And in the event you have a new construction opportunity, or let's say you're doing a flip on a house and you are pulling the drywall down, you have access to the studs, you can recess our equipment about 2 3/4 inches into the wall if the application presents itself. We're talking about minimal exposure off the wall. The first argument for any ductless unit, either wall or floor console, is, do I want that on the wall? This alleviates that discussion. So, vertical discharge for cooling, dual deflection for heating. And again, that's what we do better than our competition with this product. With the dual deflection, we can condition a space and blanket it with heated, conditioned air for both the ceiling as well as the floor loads. And that's important, guys. You're going to get a temperature inversion in the room, and that's something that our competition still, to this day, has not addressed. Now, with that dual deflection, the byproduct of that, the byproduct feature of that is what's called rapid heating. So within the first 5 to 10 minutes of operation, that horizontal deflector is going to rotate the discharge into the return. And what that allows us to do is get discharge air temperatures upwards of 120 degrees within 10 minutes. In 5 minutes, we're upwards of 100 degrees. And our competition, namely Fujitsu, which coincidentally we tested up against, is about half that. So when you're looking at our equipment side by side under design temperatures, okay, 5-degree outside temp and a conditioned space without the equipment on at 40 degrees, I can get you guys up to 90 to 100 degree discharge air temperature within 5 minutes. Whereas the likes of our major competitor, Fujitsu, with this product line, is sitting somewhere around 50 degrees. And under steady state conditions, I'm at 124 degree discharge air temperature, whereas Fujitsu is sitting somewhere around 109. That is an important concept, guys, and for any of the sales guys out in the call, or for any of the owners out there that would like some of these slides, and in the event your sales team would like these to present on site in part of their selling book, we absolutely can provide them to you. Last but not least, the air distribution. We also compared to Fujitsu, and we looked at it from a perspective of 10 minutes of operation, 30 minutes of straight operation, and then 60 minutes of steady state conditions under those similar design conditions we talked about. So after 10 minutes, you're looking at a vertical only discharge for Fujitsu down at the bottom, and where our dual deflection and rapid heating features starting to rapidly heat up the space. And I'll just fast forward all the way to 60 minutes of operation. We are addressing every area in that room at that point. That is total comfort right there. Infrared is showing you what's getting heated in the space, which is everything for us, and Fujitsu has a temperature inversion. The floor load is not being addressed, and the laws of thermodynamics apply to us all. Hot air rises, and that's the case here. You're still going to need, as a homeowner, you're still looking for something on your feet. Guys, I really appreciate you taking the time here. Hopefully it wasn't too much time out of your day. Specific to Kumo Cloud, which was the major discussion here, if you have any questions whatsoever going forward in version 2.2, please let me know. It looks like we have a few here on the screen.
So I think that's Barbara. We will send out the slide decks to each of the TMs, so please ask your TMs for slides if you want them. That was the last question. So I have a question, another look of blind panic from James. What's a typical app that you think is undersold with the floor mount units?
I would say version 2.2 Kumo Cloud interface for sure.
Now with the floor units, what implementation in a home do you think is undersold?
Oh, as far as the application, I would say, especially in more urban areas where you have hydronic systems heating a house, it's a perfect application for Mitsubishi ductless. But in the event they have radiators, right, especially in the Philadelphia and Allentown areas, which I see pretty often, you're really looking at a way better looking piece of equipment when you go with a floor console. But taking into account that air distribution, when you look at MyLink Drive and you pull a piece of equipment up on the floor console section, you look at the air coverage on the equipment, the fact that it's dual deflection, there are definitely areas where in years past, one of your sales guys is proposing a wall mount solution for this area. When you get into larger areas like a living room, I've seen out of the gate with this product where contractors are now gravitating towards the floor console as opposed to initially leading in with a wall mount unit. So definitely those urban areas where hydronics are pretty prevalent. You've got old rads in the house, you're taking them out anyway, I would definitely consider the floor console as an alternative solution to the wall mount you guys are all accustomed to.
And it just gives us another arrow in our quiver, to use my favorite English term, that we can aggregate all the different indoor units for any home to provide a unique solution to that home, whatever its needs are.
The feedback, I don't know if we have any more questions, but we did get a couple of feedback integrations here. It looks like everybody is pretty excited about the fact that the transfer ownership is up and running and there is no homeowner needed at the time of install. Again, I'd say the Bluetooth connectivity along with the fact that you do not need internet to run with your events, and then finally that transfer ownership are the three big highlights for me on version 2.2. I can't emphasize it enough. You have full access to do whatever you have to do as the installing tech with the interface without the homeowner present, and you simply just need to email that homeowner then the transfer ownership of that completed setup, and then you're good to go. You're off to the next job.
And for those of you who do want to integrate with Google Home, you can use the 24-volt interface to something like Nest, and then the Nest will integrate with Google Home, and many of those high-end T-Stats do integrate with Google Home. So use the 24-volt interface, and I can't remember the part number, James. I don't know if you can.
Yep, it's a CN24 relay kit.
So that's a direct interface from the unit to a smart interface, smart thermostat, and from that you can then relay it to Google Home.
Yeah, I will add on that just because we're mentioning it. It's specific to each indoor unit. You may need an additional accessory, not necessarily on the ducted models, but when you get into the wall mount units to get that 12-volt DC signal to the relay, you might need a few other controls and accessories. So just keep that in mind as you're plugging away. You're getting used to all these new controls and accessories. We certainly are on a regular basis. Make sure that you're making the phone calls and make sure you have everything for that job to make for a successful install.
Okay, thank you everyone. That was, I hope, very useful. Please send me any questions and we'll get a copy of the slides out to everyone and also make the recording available. Thanks and have a great day.